Hi, today we're going to talk about how DNS works. DNS, or Domain Name Service, is kind of one of the backbones of the internet. It allows our machines to work with us in terms that we're familiar with. So when we try to find a website like Google.com, our machines work better with the IP address of that website. So, what happens when we make a request for a certain website? Well, the request goes out from our laptop to the internet, and from here, as it's a DNS request, there's generally settings on what IP address we're going to send DNS requests to. And those DNS requests go to things called domain name servers, or DNS as well for short. The request goes to the DNS server, Google.com. The DNS server checks its records for Google.com, returns that information to the computer, and it's usually given in the form of a number. Now, for this one, I'll use Google's DNS server, or one of them. They have many of them. 8.8.8.8 as the response received. Now, that's not really where Google.com lives, but just for argument's sake, let's pretend that it is. So once this request goes out for Google.com and the response is given to us from the DNS server that Google.com lives at 8.8.8.8.8, maybe I threw an extra 8 in there, I'm not sure. But once we get this back, our computer can then formulate the packets of information it's going to send out to Google.com. In this instance, it's going to send them to 8.8.8.8. And somewhere out there is a big web server that houses Google.com. And it lives at this address. That's about how simple it is. Now, when it comes to the DNS settings on your devices at home, sometimes DNS can fail. So if you have your setup set to default, you can go in and change it. So if you're having internet issues, things are acting kind of weird, but it seems like things you've already gone to are still working. It could be that you're having DNS issues. So your computer is reaching out trying to look up the addresses, the IP addresses for different things that you're trying to go to now. It's got the addresses saved from previous lookup attempts, and it's able to get to those items. So if you'd already looked up Google.com, for example, your computer will do what's called caching. It'll cache that IP address so that it can go back to it again. And generally, there's a time for those records to live on your computer. After that time expires, your machine will then go out and look and ask again where it's at. So if you're having DNS issues, sometimes you are having issues because something has changed and you've got an old address and you need to flush the cache out. Other times it's because your DNS server is unavailable. When that happens, it helps to have two DNS servers listed. And normally by default, just setting up your home network, when a machine joins your home network that you've set up with your internet service provider, it's going to get two DNS server IP addresses by default. There are a few places out there that you can look that can provide you with DNS service. One of those is a place called OpenDNS. I believe it's .org. And you can Google just DNS services that are out there. And basically what that will give you is they have certain IP addresses that will allow you to point your device when you put those IP addresses into your device's settings, okay, for DNS, which you can Google how to do that for your specific device and operating system and find out the instructions on how to do this. But if you take this OpenDNS, for example, and you were to put that into your machine, if you were having issues with connectivity surrounding DNS, being able to reach your DNS provided by your internet service provider, as soon as you put this OpenDNS information in there, or you can't even use Google's, this is an actual address that you can put in there, is 8.8.8.8.8. I think I said the right number of .8s, but anyway, you can take that actual number, put it into the settings on your device for DNS, and that will fix the issue. So if you're having DNS issues, it's just because your machine can't go out and look up the things you're asking it to do. And this is part of apps on your phone or tablet device, websites that you watch, things like Netflix, or if you watch movies on HBO or Showtime's applications or their websites. All of these things require a DNS lookup to do. And while it's Netflix.com to you and me, there's an IP address that your computer needs to have in order to reach that website. And if you give it Netflix.com and send it on its way through the browser, the machine's going to reach out to a DNS server that you've got configured on the device, and it's going to ask it, where's Netflix.com? The DNS server is going to look at what it has, and it should reply with, this is where Netflix.com is, and then your machine will be able to reach it successfully. Now, all of this happens very fast. So if it's not working and you try a different DNS server and suddenly it works, it's usually indicative that you could not reach your DNS server that you had originally configured. So that's how DNS works in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.